Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Punching Back with George Papadopoulos, episode 3 of Casual Fridays with producer Max and I. We just finished an incredible interview with John Solomon that we're going to talk about a little bit here today, but that's going to be for next week. We're testing out a new little setup here on our Casual Fridays. We're calling it 5 Insane People, 5 Geniuses. We're going to go through, we could probably find 100 million of these type of people, but we want to zero in on some of these type of individuals, analyze why we call them geniuses, why we call them insane people. And producer Max and I are just going to really delve into it and hopefully get some questions from you guys in too. So, Max, what do we have on deck tonight?
Yeah, so basically with the Casual Friday episodes now, we're going to, like you said, hone in on the 5 most insane people of the week, and then maybe we'll also hone in on the 5 geniuses of the week. So let's start with the insane people. But before we start with that, do we want to talk about the John Solomon interview a little bit? I thought it was incredible, and it was just jam-packed with just things that I've never heard before and new insights that he's had.
We've had a lot of people request to come on our show, especially to be that first guest, which everybody wants to be number one. And I purposely declined a lot of these individuals who I don't want to name now, but some are, in high level pundits or working in high level government positions, because John really has been on the beat of all these stories since day one. He lives this, he breathes this, it's his job. He has insights unlike anybody else. He doesn't have an agenda like maybe a congressman or somebody else might have. So I wanted to really focus on bringing him in here because he was able to talk about not only the Durham probe, my story, Comey, FISA, but also Ukraine, because he has the sources and he's able to provide that primary information. So I was really pleased with it. I think our audience is going to love both parts of our exclusive interview with John, and be happy to see how that impacts the discourse moving forward.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into the 5 most insane people of the week.
Okay.
So the first one is the jury foreman in the Roger Stone case.
Oh my God.
Did you hear about this?
I did.
Apparently the lead juror, the jury foreman, was not only a Trump hater, but basically a Russia collusion hoaxer, truther, whatever you want to call it, tweeting out and posting all these crazy rantings on social media. And this just came out in the last day or so. But it's just incredible that this person is able to be on such a prominent position in the jury for Roger Stone's case.
When I was going through the process and I knew I had to face a DC jury if I went to trial, I thought I could always win this in trial, possibly. I mean, I'd have to spend my entire life savings, and that's something I didn't really want to do. But I thought I would win it with a normal jury. The moment I realized I'd have to have a DC jury vote on or adjudicate my case, I said this is a no-winning battle, and that's why I said I'm throwing in the towel, because the decks are stacked. The judge in Stone's case had a gag order on him where he couldn't even post an Instagram picture if he wanted, but this juror was an activist, ran as a Democrat, donated to the DNC, and was a collusion truther. How this woman ended up on a jury in such a national case is beyond belief, unless clearly the decks were stacked against Stone and others involved in this political witch hunt.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So the second insane person, or insane people in this case, of the week has to do with the Oscars. I don't know. Did you catch the Oscars at all?
I did. I was actually at an Oscar party. It was really pretty interesting. We were at the Roger Neal Oscar party with my wife.
Cool.
It's pretty
Nice.
cool. A lot of murmurs there from the higher ups in Hollywood who, honestly, they like Trump. It's the lower to mid-level, like artistic, whatever people who don't. And I think moving forward, my real opinion is this. It was really fascinating because I was walking to it kind of like represented my life at the moment. We were walking into the Oscar viewing party, and there was a protest going on across the street. And we were trying to drive through security, and the car left me into the middle of the protest. I didn't know what the protest was. All of a sudden, I kept hearing, Papa D!
No.
It's Papadopoulos! He's here! This is the real celebrity. I said, what is this? I look around, it's like a MAGA
Shut up.
protest, like anti-Hollywood, whatever, all this. And it was the most surreal experience of my life. It was amazing. People were taking video. I got some video. I'll probably show it another time. So the reason I say it represents my life is because, we're in Hollywood. My wife and I were working on a docuseries, and she's an actress now. And we obviously have this incredible podcast here in LA. But going from that to then into the viewing party of the Oscars, where you're there with some actors who love Trump, who hate him too, it kind of was like, wow, that's my life today. It's
Yeah.
like this representation of both worlds that I'm in to some extent. And I don't necessarily think they're exclusive.
Right.
I think moving forward, this is my real opinion, right? I understood the combat, the attack against Trump for the first 4 years. For many reasons, he represented something that, a lot of the mainstream media and the Hollywood elites didn't like. And that was, kind of just optics wise, he might have just been viewed as like an older rich guy who didn't really fit into what they wanted to promote anymore.
Mhm.
I think that's why they had such a big issue with him, not necessarily his policies so much. But moving forward, and then you obviously had the Russia story, the impeachment. So you had some ammunition, I guess, even though it was all fake, that you could hit him with in the late night shows or even in Hollywood. But moving forward, when he gets reelected, which I think he is going to get reelected, and you see that the Oscars had the worst ratings in history, by the way. Hollywood ticket receipts are going down. CNN and MSNBC are losing viewers like water. I mean, they got their worst ratings ever this past year. A lot of that has to do because I think people are kind of fed up with this culture of where you're constantly attacking the president without ever really giving him any support.
Right.
I'm not saying that you should. I don't believe in state media. I don't believe in crazy things like that where you should support the president no matter who it is blindly. But when you're just 100% against him, at the end of the day, everybody's, even Democrats, are thinking there's something weird here.
Right.
So when he gets reelected, I think even Hollywood might flip a bit.
Interesting.
I really think that. I saw it at this Oscar viewing party I was at. There were a lot of bigwigs there, a lot of people in the industry. And, they were just like giving me high fives, shaking my hand, like, it's amazing. The spy story you're in, like this and that. I can't believe you made it. Your wife is here. It's so cool. There's a charm there.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to turn a bit, primarily because money's being lost.
Right.
Okay. These are facts. The Oscars just had the worst view ratings in history. And two, Trump's not that bad.
Right.
It's just the truth.
Yeah.
He's not that bad.
You can't, you can't beat the drums of, we live in a dictatorship like they do on MSNBC. It just gets old after a little while and people are sick of it.
It gets boring.
Exactly.
And even the New York Times, I've had really interesting discussions with the New York Times. I mean, I don't have anything against the New York Times or the Washington Post. I'm not one of these people who calls it, enemy of the people, things like that. But they have an agenda. But when you know somebody has an agenda, as long as you constantly, present facts and tell them to cover stories that matter to America, eventually they will be forced to have to do it. I think the president, the way he's very combative with the media, doesn't help. But if he was more or less like, hey, these are the facts, I'm helping people, I'm doing X, Y, and Z that helps minorities or white people or whatever, I think the media would be more receptive than him saying this is the enemy of the people, this is that. I understand it rallies people, but after a while, when he's reelected, I think you have to have a different approach to the media and even Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be this war, because if you're in a constant state of war, you're going to have war around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion. What do you think about that, actually?
I think you're right. I think he does he does do those things to rile his base up.
Yeah.
And I think it would probably, when he does win re-election, it will probably be for if he can figure out a way to not appease these different people, but maybe use a little bit of a lighter touch with them. I think it probably will be beneficial. But I then go back to what we talked about last week, which was I just see his opponents, quote unquote, the left-wing media or Hollywood or whatever, I see them becoming crazier and crazier in when he wins. Like if he wins, I just see they could just go completely nuts. But at the same time, so the left of the left will go crazy. But like you said, these kind of higher ups in Hollywood or these other people who are a little bit sick and tired or bored by all the hysterics will start to warm up and turn in terms of their, outlook on the president. So it'll be kind of a double-edged sword.
It's kind of like rehab, though. You go through a denial stage
right.
initially.
Well, it's been years of it so
I,
far.
I will accept that they had a denial issue, and then obviously like all these stories I just explained, which were so stacked against Trump, were helping feed this flame against him. But when he's reelected, it's a done deal. You can't. There's no more denial. There's no more. This was a one-time phenomenon.
Then reality sets in.
Then reality sets in, and then you're like, okay, here are the facts. He's doing good for the country. Overwhelmingly, you don't have to support him on everything, but overwhelmingly, people are doing better than they were 4 years ago. And two, we're losing money because people are kind of tired of us politicizing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And even Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes, he said it clearly. He's like, to the actors, you guys don't have an education. This is him talking, not me. You guys don't have an education. You have no idea what's going on in the real world. You're completely disconnected. And three, come get your award. Just shut up and do your job. Stop
Right.
politicizing everything because you're really it's not your role.
So that leads me to the two insane people who we've yet to discuss from the Oscars this weekend. And the two insane people that I have down here are, the first person is Joaquin Phoenix. Did you see? I mean, if you happen to see his speech,
I did.
It's insane.
We feel entitled to artificially inseminate a cow, and when she gives birth, we steal her baby. And then we take her milk that's intended for a calf and we put it in our coffee and our cereal.
Look, Joker has really become my new favorite movie. I'm crazy about it. I've seen it 5 times. I'm like obsessed. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it. It was fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah, he's a wild man. He's a great actor.
But it was such a good, I don't know, I just love it. I like real movies like that, and you could feel the character and how distraught he is in his mind. And I can't stand like these comic book stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that they didn't make Joker like that.
Right.
I'm glad it was like a human. They humanized the character.
Right.
But forget the actor for the moment. His speech, he blew it. He had 30 million people to talk to, and okay, I understand that you want to talk about cows and milk and veganism, but when you have that type of platform, there are people suffering too. Humans are dying, humans are suffering, and you could have used it to actually talk about ways to address our problems as humanity and how you could address them. Because at the end of the day, we all have to, look after our
Right.
our common man first instead of an animal. And I kind of felt that he put an animal above a human, which I don't know. I didn't understand what he was trying to do there. How'd you see it?
I think he allowed himself to just rant in a stream of consciousness that he probably, which is, to be honest, I enjoy it as a viewer. I enjoy watching a seemingly kind of, free flowing, unfiltered person give his thoughts, but it just, the cow thing was just weird. It was just odd.
You want to know something weird? Not weird, but something that struck me. I actually appreciated that free flow of thought from him because I know he spoke from the heart. Whether I think he blew the platform he had, unless he doesn't care about issues affecting his common man,
Mhm.
that's a whole different point. If all he cares about is veganism and cows and milk, and then he did a great job because he had an incredible platform. On the other hand, the vapid, vacuous statement
I know.
of Brad Pitt about John Bolton
Oh my-
getting more.
Thank you to the Academy for this honor of honors. They told me I only have 45 seconds up here, which is 45 seconds more than the Senate gave John Bolton this week. I'm thinking maybe Quentin does a movie about it, and in the end, the adults do the right thing.
Brad Pitt doesn't know anything about politics, about John Bolton. I used to work with John Bolton's people for 5 years. John Bolton and these type of people, like, if you think they look down on candidate Trump because he was an outsider, you could imagine what they think of these Hollywood types. He doesn't care about him. Brad Pitt has no idea what he's talking about. And his statement was just as if he was reading off of a script that he had no idea why he was
Yeah.
repeating. That's exactly what, and I've always said it on our show, authenticity is important today. It doesn't matter if you agree with somebody or you disagree with them. As long as that person is authentic and real, you can relate to them. I guarantee you, Brad Pitt has no idea about the John Bolton situation outside of what his agent told him to read, who then was probably taking orders from somebody else. And that's exactly why, while I didn't agree with Phoenix's speech, I liked it more because it came from his heart.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
my opinion on
I
that.
think that's great. I think you're exactly right. Yeah, the Brad Pitt comment really came out of left field for me. I didn't. It was just weird and random, and it looks scripted. I completely agree.
Completely scripted.
The third insane person from the Oscars, or the second, but I guess with Brad Pitt, the third, is Natalie Portman. Did you see what she did?
I didn't catch that one. Maybe
So Natalie Portman, very famous actress, Academy Award winner herself, wore, I think it was a Chanel gown or a gown, a really nice, designer gown with the names of all the female directors that were, in her words, snubbed or not recognized by the Academy this year.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone on social media thought it was an amazing gesture, and it went super viral. But then Rose McGowan and a few other people on Twitter made the comments, "Oh, Natalie, you've been involved in producing 11 movies, and you've never hired a female director yourself,
Oh.
except for yourself. She hired herself on one movie." So it's kind of another vacuous political statement that's not backed up by, her actually taking action and putting her money where her mouth is. She makes this statement like, "Oh, the Academy is not recognizing women directors." But you've never recognized a woman director. So
It's just another empty statement.
right.
Where
Hypocrite.
it's a hypocrite and an empty statement. It's almost like the Brad Pitt, John Bolton
Exactly.
thing where he doesn't even know what he's why he's doing what he's doing.
Yep. So those were the insane people from the Oscars.
Who are the geniuses?
Wait, we still got more
Oh, we
insane
still got
people.
more.
Yeah, that's only 2 insane people. We might not be able to get through everyone, but this is a quick one. So this is the third insane person of the week, and it's Elizabeth Warren. I don't know if anyone's surprised here, but did you see she made this statement on TV about a donation that she received? Here, take a listen.
Young woman came up by herself, and she said, I'm a broke college student with a lot of student loan debt. And she said, I checked, and I have $6 in the bank. So I just gave $3 to keep you in this fight. That's what we got to do. We got to stay in this fight with people who are counting on us.
So a broke college student with $6 in her bank account gave Elizabeth Warren $3, and Elizabeth Warren gladly accepted half of this person's money and went on TV proud about that.
Yeah, Warren, I thought she was authentic initially, at least she portrayed herself as, but she's done. She's finished.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bernie's nomination now.
Yeah, I think so. So let's do we want to cover the last 2 insane people, or do we want to move towards to the geniuses?
Well, because we're limited time, why don't we just do the funny ones?
Okay.
And then we can
This goes under the 5 geniuses of the week. Maybe this is also an insane person. Have you seen these new memes that are appearing on Instagram where it's Bloomberg DMing a popular Instagram account and asking that account to post something about his campaign?
I heard that he's like paying $150 or something to like people with 5,000 followers and celebrities to.
Right. So basically on Instagram, all these funny, they call them meme accounts. Like I don't know if you're familiar with like Fuck Jerry or there's a bunch of them, and basically they all started posting these Bloomberg memes yesterday, which is just a screenshot of Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg DMing them, saying something stupid or funny. But I thought apparently the account F Jerry or Fuck Jerry. I don't know if we want to bleep that out, but that account is orchestrated this whole meme campaign for Bloomberg. So I thought it was kind of, he's getting anyone who's able to grab the money from Bloomberg because he's just dumping money, dumping money into this election cycle, I consider a genius.
Well, I guess he spent like $160 million so far of money, and for some memes, and he hasn't even gone on one debate stage yet. So I don't know what his real agenda is here. I don't know. I mean, and you know what I read, that he got like 20 votes in Iowa. He got 20 popular votes in the state of Iowa during the primary. So clearly money is not translating into getting his message out correctly, and it's almost like he's coming unhinged.
Yeah,
like-
he seems like kind of a joke. It seems like maybe he's like a little bit of a joke candidate.
Speaking of, did you see that insane video of him talking about minorities in New York?
Oh my God, yeah.
He was like, this is him 3 years ago, not when he was like 15 years old or 20. So this is as he's, just leaving his office. He's saying minorities are dangerous. So that's, of course, why I had the police go and stop them, frisk them, because they don't know how to handle their own life. And the police has to go and save them from each other. And the reason that we don't have police in white areas is because white people don't commit crime. Or something so just damning like that, and just disconnected from reality and racist, in my
Right.
opinion. I mean, it was an overtly racist, hostile comment towards a very big segment of not only the city he used to govern, but the country. And it begs the question that if he is elected president, which we know he's not going to be, but if he is, how would a minority live in Bloomberg's America if they were terrorized in Bloomberg's New York?
Right. It's a great point. It's a great point.
And he was open about how his policies were helping these people as they were being terrorized. Scary stuff.
Extremely. So another genius of the week that I thought, and comes from the tech world. There's a company. I don't know if you've ever heard of this company. I found it kind of interesting. It's an app called Do Not Pay. And if you get a parking ticket, I mean, we live in Los Angeles, so I tend to get a lot of parking tickets. You can just upload your parking ticket to this app, and they'll fight it for you, and they'll try and get you your money back.
Oh.
So it's a cool app. It's an app that just basically allows you to do a bunch of cool legal things, such as that. But they released something new this week that I think is genius. And so Do Not Pay said, exciting news, we're launching a new service that gets you compensation from robocallers. 1. If a robocaller calls you, give them one of our virtual credit cards. The card will then capture all of their details and will allow you to sue that robocaller for up to $3,000 per call. So I don't know if you've ever gotten spam calls, but I get
them all the time.
all the
I
time.
don't even pick up.
So now, but if you get a spam caller now and you pick up and you give them this fake credit card and they try and run the card will grab all the spam caller's information, and then you can use this app to then sue the spam phone call operator or the company that's running the whole thing. So, I mean, I think it's like an epidemic that's going on with all these robocallers. I think so. Anything to help fight that is genius to me.
I'm new to the tech scene myself, I'm learning it as things come out, and if that's where we're going as a society, where you have callers helping you get out of parking tickets and probably other bills you don't want to pay, then I might have to experiment with them. But fortunately, I take Uber everywhere I go in LA, so I don't have to deal with it right now.
You're very lucky because everyone is, the amount of money that the Los Angeles County collects on parking tickets the roads should be paved in gold. Like the amount of money that they collect. They're just so there's parking enforcement everywhere. It's not
Speaking
fun.
of paving in gold, so there's like a homeless like community by where I live, not too far from where I live. It's an unfortunate situation that people find themselves on the street, and that the government and the local government and even Congressman Adam Schiff, who's my local congressman, does not address. But the president apparently is coming to LA in the next couple of days for a fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, as I'm driving to studio today, I see cops, ambulances, and dumpsters everywhere, like cleaning it all up. Like people are being like dragged out of the tents
right
right now, like right before I got here. So It took him having to come here just to put on a fake facade
Right.
that there aren't homeless people, because clearly it's going to be covered.
In Adam Schiff's district.
In Adam Schiff district, and I guarantee you, the day or two after the president leaves, those people will be back on the street, and that's the shame.
It's unbelievable. So yeah, all Adam Schiff cares about is not giving the president some sort of ammunition to use against him by seeing all the horrible things that are happening in his district.
I've been living there for a year and a half, and this is the first time that I've seen people getting help or removed from that area. And it just happens to coincide with 48 hours before the president visits LA. It's, you know what? I hope that it's permanent, because no one deserves to be on the street. So Dr. Drew's going to come on next week, and he's obviously been a pioneer of dealing with mental health and homelessness. And, he was even flirting with running against Adam Schiff. And I consider Dr. Drew a friend. I was on his podcast, and he's a big supporter of mine, and he's endorsed my campaign even, and his wife has donated to my campaign. So it's going to be really interesting to hear his thoughts on how you can really address the core of this homeless problem that we're dealing with.
That's great.
So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I look forward to that as well.
Same.
So another genius of the week comes from a clip involving Lindsey Graham. I don't know if you saw this, but he was on Jeanine Pirro's show, and he said the following.
As a Republican, you get investigated from the day you get sworn in. 3 years later, they're still coming after you. Here's what amazes me. The Russian investigation, what happened? Half the people behind the Russian investigation are going to go to jail, and Trump was cleared.
Hopefully.
Well, just hang tight.
Is Lindsey a genius, or is he just running his mouth? He's saying that half of the people involved in this scandal are going to end up in jail.
Lindsey's taking some heat. He's taking heat because he's talking too much. There's not enough action.
Right.
And he's been called out a lot. You keep talking about, I'll never forget it. The day before Mueller testified, you had the FBI director testify. And Lindsey Graham, to his face, to Director Wray's face, said, "I'm bringing in Papadopoulos to testify." He told the FBI director to his face, "I haven't been called to testify." Lindsey Graham hasn't held any hearings on any of this issue. He could have subpoenaed Hunter Biden. He could have subpoenaed some of the spies involved in my story and others. He hasn't done anything. And people in South Carolina are getting fed up with it. He's coming up for re-election too. And we'll see what happens there. But he keeps going on national television saying, "I'm going to hold a hearing. These guys are going to jail, this and that," and nothing happens. So I think it's in his interest to really put up or shut up at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. So I guess based on what you're saying, I mean, he is running his mouth a lot, and you got to put your money where your mouth is. You can't just keep talking.
You have to. You can't go on Jeanine Pirro's show and say people are going to jail, and then she asks who, and you're like, "You'll wait and see."
Yeah.
We've been waiting to see for over a year now.
Right.
People are tired.
The next genius. So I'm going to say Lindsey's not a genius then, or maybe maybe we'll see. We'll see.
Could be a mad genius. We'll see.
The next genius is and this is, I guess, not China. I have it down as China spraying their city with this decontaminant. Have you seen these videos? Maybe it's a genius move, but maybe they're just really trying to get a handle of what's going on, which is maybe an out of control situation in China.
What are they spraying exactly?
So here's a video of them spraying what looks like decontaminant.
The goal of this is to kill as much of the coronavirus as possible. However, it is of course posing an additional health risk to all the citizens there. Officials are rounding infected people up and forcing them to stay in poorly run socialist government hospitals. Here is some secret footage taken from inside one of the hospitals.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think of what's going on in China? You have any?
Okay, China's the second largest economy in the world. It's the most populated country in the world. It's uh it's constantly in the news every single day now, and it has been for the last, couple of years regarding just it's as a very big competitor to the United States. However, they have a lot of human rights abuses going on over there. They're clamping down on riots in Hong Kong and with the Muslim minority that they have there. And this coronavirus, in my opinion, about 100 people have died worldwide, yet all of China is now in lockdown, and there's like martial law imposed there, and people are getting dragged out of their homes for not wearing a mask, or some are just being outright killed. There are videos of people getting killed by the government there for whatever reason, and it's scary. I think that exemplifies what it means to have a socialist country and a government that runs everyday life for your citizens. It's a scary situation, and I don't want that imported over here.
Absolutely. And I'm just looking at the numbers right now. It says there's been 1,370 deaths related to the coronavirus and 15,000 new cases just of recent. So it seems, it could become a serious outbreak, and it is scary watching the footage coming out of China.
I don't know what's scarier, to get the virus or to get manhandled by the government the way they are and then locked up in a quarantine zone. I don't know. It's not a good situation for the Chinese today.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it could be something, this could be like a Chernobyl-like event where, 5 years later we'll figure out what really happened and what the real origin story of this was. But, I tend to be a little bit skeptical about believing any of the narratives coming out of China about where this originated and how it originated.
So what are they saying? It came from an animal? What are you hearing?
I've heard a few things. They said that it originated in a wet market, which is basically a marketplace that kills and sells. I think they kill the animals in the market for meat, and that's why they call it a wet market. And so they said that the virus originated in that setting. But then I've also read conflicting reports that said that the virus didn't originate there, but the virus was present there. So it originated somewhere else and then went into the wet market. It didn't originate there. So I don't know. I know that there's also happens to be a laboratory in Wuhan that focuses on these types of viruses and diseases. So that's kind of a weird, a coincidence, if you will. The other thing, they said that we've seen images of people eating bats in their soup, and they said maybe it came from that. So I don't know.
I don't know. Then you had that guy coming in with like 100 dead birds in his luggage from China, and they stopped him at the airport.
That was bizarre.
And then you also had the government officials from China coming to the White House after they were in what's it called, Wuhan?
Wuhan, yep.
They were saying, why would they come there? Maria Bartiromo, I think, even brought that up. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy person, but something. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see to find out actually how this thing really started. Did it come from a wet market or something else? Was it a manufactured crisis? Because we know a little bit about manufactured crisis.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So this is the last clip, and then we'll get out of here. But this is a clip from Peter Thiel, who I think is one of the smartest thinkers. He comes out of Silicon Valley, but he's a well-known libertarian philosophical thinker. And he was recently giving a talk at the Hoover Institution, and he broached the topic of student debt. A lot of the Democratic candidates like to talk about the idea of expunging all of the student debt that people have. And I think Peter Thiel had something really interesting to say about that topic. So take a listen.
Mm-hmm.
Difficult for young people to acquire capital. And I'd say there's sort of two. If I had to give sort of, and that's that's the young people that are supporting Bernie Sanders, and the sort of the two simple political things that one should really think about are the runaway student debt in colleges. It was $300 billion in student debt in 2000. It's up to $1.7 trillion today. And if you start your life in debt that can never be discharged in bankruptcy, it'll be much harder to accumulate capital, and you might be less friendly to capitalism. So that is a big problem. And I don't think we should socialize the student debt, but we should deal with it in a non-socialist way. We should internalize the costs onto the universities. We should redo the bankruptcy laws. Yes, you can discharge the student debt, and when you discharge it, it's the college that gave you a bad education that gets stuck with a bill.
So yeah, I thought it was an interesting idea of possibly saying maybe a lot of people like Bernie Sanders or are anti-capitalism because it's hard for them to acquire capital because they're bogged down by all this debt from these, not amazing universities who failed to give them an education that's getting them employed and able to make some money. So I think it's cool or kind of an interesting way to think about this problem in suggesting that maybe we can create a legal framework that would allow students to kind of the schools to take responsibility for some of the debt that they've given these students.
I think they should, because if you're given a faulty product, you should be able to get a refund for that product. And an education is a product, and the institution delivers and produces and gives you that product. And if that product is faulty and you can't get a job getting out of that university, it doesn't matter if you're studying history or art or economics or political science, you should have a job coming out of university. If you don't, and you're $100,000 in debt, and then you'll never be able to obtain capital because you're drowning in that student debt, you will have a negative reaction to capitalism, which Teal just stated. And it does seem that the university should bear some of that responsibility.
And you can't declare bankruptcy. Even if you declare bankruptcy, the student debt doesn't leave you. It stays with you for the rest of your life. So if you, in the event that they provide you a faulty product and you aren't able to acquire capital and you declare bankruptcy, the university should bear the brunt of that debt, not the
state as a whole.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the extreme is the state would take the brunt of that, which would result in further taxes and more taxes,
right? And
the reappropriation of capital from other people. The wealth is wealth distribution, and that's not something a lot of people want. So yeah, that was the last Genius of the Week. Awesome. We'll put our list together for next week of the 5 most insane people and the 5 quote unquote geniuses, and we'll go through them again. And if anyone has any feedback on if they like this format or if they have any suggestions, we'd love to hear them. Absolutely. Thanks so much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you stay tuned for what we have going on next week. Subscribe on the Himalaya app or wherever you listen or watch your podcasts. We're going to continue to grow this. Max and I, we're working very hard. We're going to bring in the type of guests you want. We're answering any type of questions you have. This is all about you, so make sure you send any questions you have. You could follow us on Twitter at PunchingBackPod. You could send me questions by using the hashtag punchingback, or obviously just shoot me a direct message on my Twitter account or on the Punching Back Twitter handle. And stay tuned. We have a lot coming out moving forward. Thanks so much.